I'm Betty Reid Soskin, and I'm 101 years old. Being 101 is really something, because you feel as if you're starting all over again.
Betty, when and where were you born?
I was actually born in Detroit, Michigan. My parents didn't remain there, and so I don't remember much about that, except that I was born there.
Share with our audience how many different paths you've been down career-wise. Can you list some of
Oh,
them?
I have been so many women, so many times, that it's hard to remember who they are. I've been a daughter, a mother, a businesswoman, a federal worker. I've been in government. I've actually been so many things that's hard to remember.
Many people have learned about this side of you as a park ranger, but not as many people know about your past as a singer and a songwriter. Can you tell me about that side of you?
Yes. When I was in my 40s, I believe, I suffered a mental break, having received a guitar for my birthday. Or maybe it was Christmas. I thought I was remembering music. I remembered several songs, only to find that I'd written them. They're fascinating songs. They tend to be about life as I was living it along the way. Most of them were civil rights songs because those were the songs that meant the most to me. I find that now the songs are still relevant. They still tell my story. And they're still mean much to me.
Did you ever think of becoming a professional singer or doing it more professionally?
I wanted to be a Betty who sang. I didn't want to be a singer. At one time, I was back in Cleveland. I was attending a conference. And I sang the songs. And I was discovered again by someone who wanted to record me and invited to come back to New York to audition at the Village Vanguard. And I got a housekeeper who stayed with my children, and I went back to New York. And I sang the songs. Only it was not for an audition. It was just before I came home. Because I had decided that I couldn't do that. I had 4 children, all looking for their mother. And I came back home. I set the box of songs in the closet where they remained until about 5 years ago. I would be singing along with people in clubs. And I didn't tell anyone that I was doing it. And I remember singing the songs. And loving every single minute of it. But I was ready to put it down when the time came. And they stayed in that box for 40 years. I didn't even know that I could sing them still. I had the chance in the last few years to sing with the Oakland Symphony. At their Christmas concert. And I sang one of my songs. And I've never been happier. I think that music has the power to change anything. Because I could sing things that I couldn't say. They would have been completely outrageous had I said them. But when I sang them, they were acceptable.
What do you hope that your grandchildren will remember about you?
I hope my grandchildren remember that I was a woman. That like them, I've been so many people. I don't know that they'll ever know who I am. But I'm hoping that they remember me.
What would you say makes you the happiest these days?
I'm happiest when I'm being me. And I don't know who that is. I know who she pretends to be. But I don't really know who that is. I don't think that I ever realized how important it was to be a woman. I hope that my children will find themselves much earlier in life than I did. Because I was 50 before I had a meaningful job. I was 85 before I became a park ranger. I retired at 100. That's an awful lot to ask a woman to be.
What advice would you give your younger self?
To never marry. To never marry. I think that I could have done all the things that I have done without a man. I didn't consider myself a feminist because the men in my life were suffering the same kinds of oppression that I was. It wasn't until the 90s that I began to take on feminism as a role for me. That's when I began to really feel like Betty. I remember being Betty Charbonnet, which was my father's name. I remember being Betty Reid, which was my first husband's name. I remember being Betty Soskin when my two husbands and my father all died within 3 months. And I found myself Betty because I was no longer Betty Charbonnet, no longer Betty Reid. I was no longer defined by someone else's name.
I just want to open up space for you to say anything to the audience or to the camera, anything on your mind.
The questions are, they change. And each time they get asked, there's a different meaning because you've grown so much from the last time you asked it. The answers never stay. They simply go by. The questions are the real things. The important thing is never what has gone wrong. What has gone by is gone. I don't know what comes next, but I do know that I'm ready for it. My name is Betty, and this is my brief but spectacular take on signing my name to freedom.